Hey, Dr. Karen here, and a happy Sunday. I wanted to share something with you that I thought was definitely interesting. Maybe you could say it's one of my experiments. But I haven't really confronted my medical colleagues about this whole, mandatory jibby jabby thing or what they're doing or saying. And I am concerned about them. I'm really not wanting Nuremberg 2.0, where the people that were doctors and nurses were punished in a way that I am not for. I'm not for capital punishment, certainly not a deterrent. I think there's other ways of doing it. That's just my personal opinion. So, you know, I thought I would experiment a little bit and with one particular colleague who we haven't hung out for a while together, but it's always been very congenial, lots of love, and you know, and this person actually had taken Reiki training with me and did a lot of other more esoteric things. And actually, she was quite gifted in this area, but chose not to pursue it and continue her allopathic career, which is completely fine. But what I attempted to do was to share with her the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, their video. It was called More Harm Than Good. And basically, it breaks down the Pfizer jibby jabby data that was court ordered to be released to the public they wanted about 75 years to release it, all of it. And the court said, no, you have to release it much faster. So we got the first 6 months of data. And these people at that Canadian link did a really, really great job, with a beautiful factual presentation. It's based on the data, on the actual raw data, which we've been waiting for a very, very long time, especially those of us that are kind of like, science nerds. Anyway, so she didn't even want to look or click the link. And this is what she wrote. Karen, I'm so happy that an increasing number of people are correctly understanding the scientific data regarding, the big C, and the need for jibby jabby, and are getting themselves and children adequately jibby jabbied. I'm very disappointed and saddened by your decision not to be jibby jabbied. I'm also concerned about all those you influence and sway to really believe your way of thinking about this jibby jabby. I am following my heart in critical thinking, which is about true factual information regarding the big C and the jibby jabby. Luckily, I've had the opportunity to work with an infectious disease MD since the beginning of this outbreak while working at the XYZ Health Center. I'm not surprised that you hunt down articles that you think support your anti jibby jabby way of thinking, and I don't think your fairies or aura thinking will maintain any protective bubble for you. This reminds of a past time when you were into something, some group following or positive business thinking. Then you insisted that I should help my son to do it. Now, I don't honestly remember that part. However, the positive business thinking thing did really well for me. Let me just tell you that. Okay. So she said, so my friend, I cannot support the anti-jibby jabby philosophy that you have. I can only remember the Karen that was aware of true scientific data and had a deeper concern for mankind, not just of the self. All right, let's see. I question who exactly was fired or medical licenses lost for speaking out on what. I was telling her about the people that were canceled and threatened and their licenses stripped, medical doctors included. I doubt I would sit down and discuss any of this with you. What I've heard in your emails is unworthy of further discussion. Please don't email me about it. And here's the best line, okay? Here's the best line, because how many of you have heard this one from concerned family and friends? I can only wish that you and James do not have to deal with any of the big C illnesses for yourself and your families. Aw. Okay, yeah. So that was from one of my besties, that I hadn't seen for quite a while, but we had been good buddies, and yeah. So she does work in the system, and if you think that you have family and friends that you're going to necessarily be able to change their minds, well, maybe they're not healthcare providers, right? But I think healthcare providers generally are very well indoctrinated. I certainly was in whatever system we, went to school in. And I, for one, made fun of people, scientific, not being scientific and things like that. And in the past, so, I've been there, I get it. um, yeah, thanks, Rosanna. So yeah, so the weird thing is, one wants to retort, right? Wants to go back and you know, it's going to be falling on deaf ears, but I'd like to go, well, if we did get that illness where there is a 99.97% chance of survival, and there are early treatment options, which apparently you guys aren't aware of or aren't using, that get 48 hours, people out of hospital, right? Uh, yeah, I don't think she wants to listen to that or any of that thing. The funny thing is about the science, right? Like I thought that was really funny. How she said that, what happened to that Karen? I tell you what happened to that Karen. Karen woke up and then she started following the science that we weren't being shown, in our medical journals or among our peers or our pharmaceutical related and sponsored dinners. Yeah, went to quite a few of those. And lunches. Yep, had a lot of free pizza and Chinese food. And that was in the day where, they got rid of the trips to Tahiti. I mean, like, I was like, hey, like, how come my predecessors got to go to Tahiti and Hawaii and, got their stethoscopes paid for and all this expensive stuff? And what do I get? I got pizza for lunch, and I'm like gluten sensitive. So, or was gluten sensitive. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it can be frustrating for people. I totally understand to not be able to retort back, or and I just think it's really quite interesting because I know what it's like to be in allopathic medicine. You're so darn busy, seeing your clients and patients. You pretty much are just like, hey, give me the drug insert. Yeah, I'm going to scan it. Okay, got it. Like you really, I mean, most doctors and nurses, nurse practitioners, I mean, they don't really take the time to take a look at it. So the funny thing is like, okay, so I'm not sure what data she's thinking that I'm looking at, but I'm like, well, actually, however inaccurate it is, I'm looking at the CDC data and looking at the data that was presented to, make universal mass jibby jabby for, the US. Same data that the FDA looked at. What data are you looking at? Really? Did you even know this was court ordered? Like not that long ago? Did you know that this was really released? Wow. Okay. So got a little bit more propaganda. It was funny because people write Christmas letters, and I used to write them to my family and close friends and send it, and it's like the last 2 years, I'm like, you know what? I am just, if I start writing, just, it's not going to go over very well. So I just did not do it because I'd be just too tempted, right? Too tempted. And then I'd feel phony, I'd feel phony. I'm like, I'm just going to beat around the bush and talk about everything else, but what is central in most people's minds and my minds, and that I spend, a lot of energy on really looking at the big picture. And in my case, really saying, well, what actually works, right? And we know from, Chinese medicine, even it's so ancient, but even, the newer studies in vibrational medicine and epigenetics, right? Like ask any of your, well, I don't know if you have any, but any of your medical colleagues, like, yeah, what do you think about epigenetics? Isn't that the coolest thing? They'd be like, epi what? Well, how your environment, controls your genes, not the other way around. Oh, okay. Yeah. Have a nice day, right? Like, I mean, chances are it's going to be like, right? And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Bruce Lipton, what do you think? Like epigenetics, like your genes don't dictate your reality. It's your environment that tells your genes what to do. Is that the biggest breakthrough in healthcare ever? Do you hear about that in your medical journals? No, you don't. I'm a big fan of Bruce, can you tell? Just, yeah, Biology of Belief. Read that book. He's been on my radio show as well. And okay, so okay, so I did get a Christmas letter, from one of my friends. I won't say who. First paragraph. Okay, she's got this beautiful family. She's super smart. Love this woman. She's just beautiful person. And really got, when I worked, I won't say where, when I worked with her, fantastic to work with. Anyway, so she says, dear friends and family, first paragraph. It is remarkable to think this time last year we were rejoicing at the holiday miracle of extremely effective vaccinations delivered in record time through an unprecedented degree of collaboration by science and business worldwide. Yeah, so much so that they started the stuff before the pandemic was actually called. Anyway, sorry. Let me read the rest. Yet, 12 months later, humans have failed to take the collective action needed to exit the pandemic. It still hangs like an albatross, courtesy of a misguided minority who continue to deny science and a failure of government systems. Well, I'm saying that's true for the latter, I think. Anyway, meanwhile, our democracy is under siege by another type of denier. Both groups bound by some basic lack of human consideration for anyone other, whether by race, gender, or background. The funny thing is that the first sentence, she talks about the rejoicing the holiday miracle of extremely effective vaccinations delivered in record time through an unprecedented degree of collaboration, science, and business. She sounds like our former president when she says that. I'm pretty sure she's not Republican, though. I just think it's hilarious because she sounds just like him. Yeah. So, and then the next line, besides this, we're doing actually quite well. So, okay, this is the first paragraph of this Christmas letter. See? You see, it's a good thing I did not write my Christmas letters, right? The last 2 years, because, probably would have sounded like the opposite of that, but would have sounded probably just as judgmental. So I had to cancel that on myself. Yeah. So every day we're bombarded with different options, different opinions. I have come to the conclusion personally, not saying you should, but personally, is that when there is a blaming of another, that's usually the wrong way. That's usually not the way. Because then we become victims. And who wants to be a victim, right? You don't want to be a victim. So if we are done being victimy and we're done being, a sacrificial lamb or self-sacrificing, we don't have to do that anymore. What does that mean? That means we are 100% self-responsible for our own experience and reality, right? So I have made a commitment, maybe you can too, in 2022. I've done it before, but really, making this commitment is to catch myself in the space when I am judging or blaming or shaming. Well, I haven't done shaming for a really long time, except shaming myself, years ago, but still, like those are the things, blaming, shaming, judging. Those are the things that pull us down. And yeah, it's natural and human to sometimes think about those things. But when you catch yourself, when I catch myself thinking those things, I know it's addictive and it's a little tempting. Not going for it. I know what you're doing. Not going for it. You give me a test. Not going for it. Right. And then just, keep seeing the big picture. I think that's, what I find the easiest thing for me is to see the big picture. And people say, well, just ignore them, And I mean, at the one hand, there is some sadness there, like not like it's like terrible sadness, because I get their perspective based on how we were trained. We were all trained the same way. So you would really have to step out of the box, right? To think differently, to think, they say, critically differently. The funny thing is, there's all these sides of, this against that, this war, and then red, red and blue, and all that kind of stuff. And that is completely orchestrated, at least from my point of view. And so it's like I would say, hey, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. Um, yeah, so Sherry says, I think that some doctors can't see because they would feel bad because they've harmed. Yeah, absolutely. Did you take Psych 101, right? So Psych 101, we heard about Stanley Milgram. We heard about, this researcher, which, okay, they probably can't do that experiment nowadays, probably be like illegal or something. Although, legality is probably not that important these days, it seems. Anyway, so Stanley Milgram had told these volunteers to shock, the person in the next room, which they could not see, with supposedly this many volts of electricity. And at first it was a light shock, but then they kept saying, well, next, higher, higher, and they kept getting them to shock. And after a while, the person in the next room, who was an actor, I believe, would scream in agony, right? And say, stop, please stop, right? And the person that's supposed to do the shocking, the volunteer, would look at the guy in the white coat, and the white coat guy would say, continue, please continue. And they'd be like, and he's like, please continue. And you know what? 80% of people did. Hmm. Yeah. And this is not even that intense, right? Think about it. You're not being asked to shock someone in the next room. So can you imagine there are, at least Stanley Milgram felt like there was only 20% of people who were going to rebel against authority based on their better judgment, and 80% who would not. Yeah. At least, it's been a long time since I saw that from Psych 101, very, very long time, but it was pretty shocking. Yeah, pun intended. When I studied that in Psych, it was one of the things that really stuck in my mind. Would I have been the one to keep shocking? Well, now I can say no, absolutely not. But back then, I don't know. I don't know. I was pretty much a rule follower, you know? If my medical association said we should do something, it must be good. They must have figured it out. They must have made sure it was safe. And then I would just go ahead and do it. Yeah. In fact, in my clinic, I'm going to just admit it right now. In my clinic, I was the number one person who kept track of vaccinations for children. I mean, the insurance companies and the people that would, check the hospital to see if they should, keep funding them, loved my charts and forms and my accountability and all that kind of stuff. And some of them even took, copies of it and to spread to other clinics. Yeah, am I proud of that? At the time, I was. I thought I was doing the right thing. So I think at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do the right thing. Um, let's see. Yeah, wag the dog. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that in medicine, we just assume to be true, but actually have not been proven to be true. And then now that I know that there are other colleagues of mine, some of them MDs, some of them, nurses, that are actually helping people cure themselves, not just of the big C, but of other things, of diabetes and heart disease and the big other C word. Definitely can't say that. And it's amazing. So to me, I'm like, okay, so who am I gonna follow and listen to and pay attention to? The people who don't know how to do that, don't know how to teach their patients to reverse their heart disease, reverse diabetes, heal themselves? Or am I going to listen to the other people who, pretty much write prescriptions, do the lab tests, and, go, well, sorry, it's nothing we can do, keep exercising, keep, eat right, and out you go, here's a prescription. Yeah, like really, why would I listen to the old me? Well, actually, I was, really into counseling even when I was really young as a medical doctor, which is why I was very popular, and which is why I never made a lot of money because I just didn't see enough patients per hour. Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to share this with you, and I empathize with you. And here I am, a medical doctor, right? I'm a medical doctor who was faculty, okay, assistant professor at UCLA. I had a different last name then because I was married. I was at UCLA, Santa Monica, UCLA, and co-chaired The Evidence-Based Medicine Committee. Yes, we taught residents and medical students about evidence-based medicine, about quality evidence and things that weren't quality evidence, about the strengths of the different kinds of studies, an observational study versus a cohort study versus a prospective study versus double-blind placebo-controlled trials and blah, 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 right? All that kind of stuff. Wow. And people think I've suddenly lost my mind. Amazing. Well, that's cognitive dissonance for you, right? And it's like, it's like, do I even reply to this? Probably not. Probably not. I'm so tempted though. I am so tempted. It's like, just click the link. Just click the link. It gives you the data, the raw data, like from the people that you're actually trusting. Not my data from somewhere else that somebody made up. Not that data, the actual raw data. They're not going to do it. I don't think any single member of my family, they said thank you. They were nice about it, at least, they weren't saying these sorts of things, but they said thank you. And I don't think they clicked the link. I don't think they watched. It's like they don't want to know, right? And so, okay. Well, at least I feel good about, reaching out once, to my family members. Probably reached out way too much to my parents, but anyway, to my extended family members, reaching out once. And yeah, I think that's it. That's what I will do. Whatever happens, happens. And each of us are self-responsible, or should be. So we make our own decisions, make our own reality. And we can't guarantee that even when the whistleblowers and the truth and the data come out, don't be surprised if people still don't see it. They have a vested interest not to now, because they're way deep in there. And they might crack, This is psychologically traumatizing. More so to those who, on some soul level, know they're, doing something that isn't correct, isn't ethical, but are still doing it anyway because of their human ego needs, understand, job, feeding the family, whatever, following the rules, feeling like they're a good person, virtue signaling, all that kind of stuff. So let's have some compassion and empathy, and for ourselves as well. And we're all doing the best we can. Do we make mistakes? Yeah, probably. I probably share too much, with people that don't care. However, it's great to, and I think one of my friends, the one that wrote the first letter, does understand my influence to some degree. And it's actually, more scary, dangerous, whatever you want to call it, to speak out than it is to not do that, right? So yeah, we all take a certain degree of a risk by doing what we feel is ethically and morally correct. But at the end of the day, everyone's doing the best they can with the level of consciousness that they have. Anyway, thanks guys for listening. I wanted to share those with you, and partly because, just so you know, if you're having a tough time with family and friends, don't feel bad about that. You don't have to feel bad about that. I'm a medical doctor, and I get it too. So apparently I'm not any more believable than those that are not family doctors, or that are not medical doctors. Yeah. Anyway, love you guys. Have a great rest of your evening, and stay strong, stay courageous, stay within yourself, and just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. There is a tribe. Speaking of tribes, still working on my health freedom tribe. It's going to be a place where we're going to meet every week at noon Eastern and chat for however long, usually 20, 40, 50, 60 minutes sometimes, just about what's going on in the world. We share with each other, some things that we may have missed. Like somebody say, hey, did you watch this interview? And I'll say, hey, like the Canadian COVID Care Alliance.org folks, great presentation. People say, well, what do I do if this happens in the job? They would say, hey, go to this website, then you go here, you get some help here, and you can try this, the mandatory exemption card and blah, 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 and follow this, and learn this. And so it's kind of nice because we get to collaborate and work together. And it's really great, especially after you get letters like this for me, to remember your tribe. And the tribe is like, we're all this, this cohesiveness, supporting each other, loving each other. And you're like, oh my gosh, people that get it. This is so great. Anyway, so we're working on the Health Freedom Tribe. So we can talk to each other every week and then post important things and some lessons and things that I learned, because I do learn a lot of stuff really, really quickly. And the nice thing about doing the spiritual work that I do as well is, sometimes we don't know and we ask source, right? And just go, okay, well, let's dissolve and uncreate all bias if we can, as much as we can, and what's really going on. Sometimes source gives me an answer I was not expecting, and sometimes, yeah, like early, I won't even say it here live, but early on I asked, so what is this thing that's going on, right? And I'm thinking it's some infectious thing, and God's like, nope, it's not. It's not a V. Nope. Anyway, I won't go on, but it was very interesting, and continues to be interesting. All sorts of stuff going on in the world, and like I said, it's probably not a good idea to share some of that stuff here, but we love sharing it in our Health Freedom Tribe. So in case you're not part of that, stay tuned. Get on my mailing list at KarenCan.com. Get the freebie at the bottom of the page. Get on the mailing list because we will announce when that is available. And you can be a part of it. I also have a Telegram channel too, so I try to share from other folks that I know, like, and trust, some information. Sometimes it's funny memes, sometimes it's informational memes. Some of the more spicier stuff we do share there because Telegram does tend to let us do that for now. So check out my Telegram channel. I believe that's on the bottom of KarenCan.com. You can actually there's a link to the channel right there. And so we can have some conversations there for free. Anyway, thank you so much. And you take care and be good to yourself. Okay. All right. Bye for now.